Hi friends, it's Natasha Koo from Intolign and welcome to another heartfelt chat. And today I want to share with you my past mission in the world, the calling that I thought I had when I was in high school and all into my young adulthood. It's really funny because this mission or this vision that I had of myself, that this was my true calling, this was my purpose in the world, it changed a few years after finding it. So it goes to show that our purpose can be an evolution and that we can have multiple ones through our life, and it's not something that we find and then that's it, and then we found the meaning, we found our purpose in life. So anyways, back when I was in not elementary school but middle school, I was still figuring out my way, and all throughout high school I was trying to figure out, well, I'm expected to go to university. I've been working so hard all my life to get really good grades, but what am I to do at university? What degree am I going to choose? What am I interested in? What am I good at? And what am I going to dedicate my life, my whole working life to? What would be my career? And one thing I knew for sure, and it's that I did not want it to go into the sciences or into math, because those were two things that I really wasn't very good at. At the same time, there was this kind of pressure from above, and there was this, I think, expectation for me to go into something business related, which I thought was just fine, but business itself didn't really interest me. And my dad was a business owner, he's an entrepreneur, so even though growing up he didn't really teach me much about business at all, that was something that I guess was kind of normal and expected of me, to go into something business related. So throughout high school, it's almost time to apply for university, and I still didn't know what exactly to apply for. Now, I think this was in grade 11, I think. So I think 2 years before, what was it, the last grade? I can't remember anymore. But I had this social studies class where the teacher actually played the inconvenient truth. And that was the first time that I was ever introduced to the idea or the concept of climate change. But I didn't know about the impact of carbon dioxide, carbon cap and trade. I didn't know anything about climate change and the real issues, environmental issues that were going on in the world. So once I found out about all these topics, and after feeling really deeply this movie, I actually realized that I truly care about this planet, and if such a big problem is happening, I want to help solve it. So then I went on to apply to different universities. I had some safe options that were business only, and I thought that a lot of universities had either just environmental sciences, and remember, I'm not very good at the sciences, or they had business degrees, and I couldn't really find out, how am I gonna get an environmental degree? I'm not gonna become an environmental engineer, I'm not gonna become an environmental scientist, what can I possibly do? So that's when I found a degree, an interdisciplinary degree that actually merged environmental studies with business, and that I just knew, once I saw that program online, I knew I had to apply for it, and I knew that if I got that, I would be so happy. That was it for me. So I did apply, and luckily I did get in, and that's how I got into the University of Waterloo to study environment and business, and that's like a 5-year bachelor degree with 2 years of internships. So while I was having my, I think, last summer break before university, I remember so clearly that I was having a holiday, or I was visiting my grandparents in China, and I was having dinner with one childhood friend and someone else, and I remember being so excited and saying proudly to them, I'm so excited for this program because after graduation, I'm gonna join the UN and I'm gonna save the planet and I'm gonna bring all the countries together. I'm gonna solve these environmental issues. And I was so convinced and I was so excited to save the world, literally. And I remember that energy. And going into university for the first week, whoever I sat beside, I would be like, hello, my name is Natasha, and what's your name, and why are you in this program, and what are your dreams? And I was so bright-eyed and so excited, and I would ask everyone next to me who was unlucky enough to sit next to me. And then to my surprise, the students next to me did not share the same enthusiasm, and most importantly, they weren't there for the same reasons that I was. So I remember one colleague or fellow student classmate, he just turned over to me and said, well, I'm in this program because there's no math. And I'm like, okay, good for you. And another person said, well, because there's money in it. And that's when my heart sank and I realized, oh, okay, so we're not a whole class of excited young adults wanting to save the world together. People are here for their own reasons, either for money, because it's an easy way out, because they didn't get into the program they actually wanted to for university. Not everyone was like me, and that was when my hope started to dwindle a little bit. That's when I started to realize that actually there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, and it's not as simple as I thought it would be. So then I started going to university, and I just remember I was so hopeful. I wanted to learn so much because I wanted to do so much good in this world. And I remember, I think it was in the second year of university, so 5 years in total, right? Second year of university, I was handing in an exam and I was just completely furious because the exam was, I think, multiple choice. That wasn't the problem. It was just all regurgitation of everything that we had to memorize within a textbook, within the lectures. And I just went up and put the finished exam down. I saw the teacher assistant who actually taught the tutorials. I just looked at him and I'm like, I can't believe this. We're in university and we're still here to just memorize and regurgitate stuff. When are we allowed to think? When are we allowed to write down our thoughts and really learn something? And the teacher assistant, he's not a professor, so he just looked at me. He's a really nice guy. He said, maybe in master's degrees. And I just shook my head because, I at that time was probably 19 going on 20, and I was done. I was so done with the school systems, and I thought higher education would be different, and it was just the same thing but with more tuition and sometimes higher stress, and it wasn't what I thought it would be. So that was also a shock to my system, and I was also disappointed in higher education, period. So then came my first internship, and that's when I opened up my eyes to, okay, what's going on in the real world? How can I apply myself within my career, within jobs and companies and governmental organizations? How can I apply myself to better the world? Now I can actually apply what I've learned at school, right? So my first job was at Environment Canada. I had the most amazing supervisor, a very extremely supportive team too. And that supervisor, her name is Miss Johnston. She was such an amazing lady. She really believed in me. She gave me extra responsibilities. She was such a trooper. So I absolutely loved working for her. She was the best first office or environmentally space boss in the world. Now, I was really let down by this job also, not because of, my supervisor, like I said, or the team or anything like that. I was just really let down by what the government was doing, or not, more specifically, not doing. Working at Environment Canada made me realize one really important lesson. I realized that if you have a party in power who is not prioritizing the environment, mitigating climate change, adapting towards climate change, and making this world, actually a place where long term it can sustain as humans on this planet. If that's not a priority for the political party that's in power at the moment, if that's what's happening in your country, then their mandate is not there and funds are going to get pulled. All the environmental programs are almost like a joke, meaning there's a lot of work done, by all the employees, but by the time it moves up the ladder, it'll just get rejected for projects, or it won't be taken seriously, and there'll be no true implementation of what is being advised, and there'll be no new programs, being just implemented. So that's when I realized that, if, at least in Canada, the government, it changes all the time, right? With each new vote, each round of voting, the last political party's mandate is now, over. They can change it, and it's just not ideal. And I realized that, okay, I've worked for, the federal government. Not much is happening. No one really cares, especially the ones on top. No one really cares. And I realized that the solutions have to come from somewhere else. And then at this time, I was still really gung-ho. I still wanted to really save the world. So then comes my second internship, and that's where I worked for the municipality of Hamilton, and that was truly a really great learning experience because I saw how much the city was actually doing to reduce emissions within the fleet, and I saw how they were collaborating with NGOs and all the industry and setting these really striving goals. So my mind was blown. I was like, wow, this is really, really amazing. But then I also saw how, wanting to save the world within the municipality environment, it's just a few people. It's literally just a handful of people creating these initiatives. And you are like a little black sheep with a huge crowd of white sheep with their own mandate and with their own jobs, right? So you're just trying to push and pull and tug and bring everyone together so that they together move towards this common goal. But I also saw the limits of being, in this sustainability group or little compartment within a huge organization. So then I, around that time, realized, okay, I'm gonna give up on trying to save the world through working for the government. I've tried the federal way, I've tried the municipal way, and now I'm gonna go for the private sector. So that's when I worked for an environmental consulting firm. And again, I was blessed with absolutely the best bosses in the world. Such kind people with such great hearts, really wonderful intention. They wanted to create a team, a company with really good culture. They paid well, great environment. Just everything they did was just incredible. They were such good employers. They were so amazing. And then that's when I realized that, okay, to be happy on the job, it's really not about the pay. It's really not about the environment, because the pay was good, the environment was amazing. I was downtown in Vancouver. From my office, I could see the ocean. I could see North Vancouver across the strait. I could see the mountains. I could see the blue sky. During lunchtime, I could take a walk by the seawall. It was the best location, the best working environment. Everything was so good. But then I still didn't feel satisfied. And I just kept asking myself, this job it's really good. I'm really blessed. And we are actually doing good for the environment because we're helping mining companies, hydro companies, all sorts of big projects to meet the environmental regulations in Canada. That's really important. But then I realized that with all these perks and with this really good workplace, I still wondered, okay, would I actually be happy here if I had to stay here for the rest of my life? And the answer was no, because I was still asking for more. I still wanted more. And that's when I realized that I am looking for something else. So this was kind of when it dawned on me that what I was looking for in the marketplace might be a lot different than what I initially thought, right? Remember back when I was going into university the summer before, starting my first semester, I was so excited. I wanted to work for the UN, but then I realized what happens on a governmental level. I realized like nothing really happens, especially at the UN. It's like, so many political leaders almost being like in kindergarten and no one agrees, right? It's really difficult. And also then in the private sector where the money is and where things are so great, I still wasn't satisfied. So when I moved and I graduated from in Canada and I moved to Switzerland to be with Joachim, that's when I explored into more of the not-for-profit. I explored more the foundations that supported social entrepreneurship, environmental startups, because I did realize that startups really interest me, because the founders, they really have that passion. They have this vision to better the world. They still have that fire going on. No one snuffed it out yet. And at the same time, they're using market solutions to solve bigger problems and not just to make profit. So I was quite happy working for a foundation and also a not-for-profit that helps such organizations, but at the same time it was still a bit too slow, and I still felt like I wasn't truly giving my all to solve these huge environmental problems and social problems in the world. So this is kind of chapter 1 of my schooling, of me trying to find my place within the workplace and within the market. And it was really difficult, and maybe some of you also relate and you're still finding your way. But this is just chapter 1, and I want to share with you in the next video, which will come out on Wednesday, I guess the flip side or the next chapter of the story, because until now it was gung-ho on saving the world, and I truly believe that I wanted to dedicate my whole working life to make this planet, feasible and capable of supporting human beings so that we don't ruin it, but actually something happened which completely changed my future or my current life right now, and things took a completely different turn. I did not expect it. I did not see it coming. It has nothing to do with environment or business, and it just shook my world, and I'd love to share with you how I dealt with that and what truly happened. So stay tuned, and we'll have another heartfelt chat soon.